So let's hope this is going to be okay tonight. It's never quite guaranteed, is it? Quite how long things will take to kick in. Always seems to take a while before I pick up everything on my computer. Let's see what's going to happen. Because we should have gone live. It tells me I've gone live on my screen. It's always helpful. Aha! And now the computer is telling me I've gone live. Hello, Esther. Hello, Barbara. Hi, Alison. Hi, Jan. Good evening, everyone. Cool. There we are. Oh, I like it when a plan comes together. Good evening, Sheila. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hi, Jill. Thank you for joining. So, hi, Rosa. I think that's probably your first name. It could be wrong. If so, I totally apologise. The new products and Pentart were introduced last week, and obviously there were lots of talk last week about all the different products. So if you didn't see my live from the week before last, then please check it out, because I went through all of the products in lots of detail. And tonight, this project is more focused on using them. I think there's been quite a lot of Christmas-based projects because their colours are ideal for Christmas, but they're not exclusively Christmas. And so I thought, with Pentart's permission, I would do something that was very deliberately non-Christmas and focus with maybe the new Stamperia Songs of the Sea collection, which of course Pentart helped to distribute. So this is sort of where we're going, and I've done quite a lot of prep because there's quite a lot of painting involved. So let me just dismantle this little lot out of harm's way, and then we can, and I'm going to talk you through and show you all of the steps that I've done for the pieces that I've got, and then we can talk through the new products. And that looks like, oh no, I'm not missing a piece. There we are. So that's my plan for this evening. Oops, she says throwing bits on the floor. So I've used quite a lot of the new Stamperia molds. I love them, and I've cast these all in a white resin, and then I've done some prep work to make life easier. In fact, I've done lots of prep work all together, and if I dismantle this lot, that can be separate, that can go over there, and then we can take this lot out of the way, and there we are. So I've taken a 12 by 12 paper, this one, which comes from the paper pad, but you can buy it as an individual on some websites, and then have cut out the central circle for this piece, because I want this inside my porthole, and then I'm actually going to use the reverse side. I'm using a 12 by 12 canvas here for my background, but really it could just be a 12 by 12 piece of MDF. Doesn't need to be primed. And I'm just going to, I've got some of the Pentart Universal Hobby Glue here that I'm just going to use to glue this all in place. I don't need a huge amount of thick layer. I will be reasonably generous, but because I do want it all to sit down, and it might go a little bit wrinkly, but that's not too great problem either, because it'll flatten. It's only the water and the glue content that's going to make it a bit wrinkly, not everything else. So that's the plan for this evening. I think we're probably okay, aren't we? Hello, Maria from Greece. I think Lena is probably from Greece as well. You don't want the thick there, but you do need a covering over everything. I can cover disguise edges long term, and we're going to slot stuff in. So this, as I say, this is a universal glue. It's really useful. You don't need, I'm gluing paper to paper, or paper to the back of a 12 by 12 canvas, so it doesn't need to be really thick, heavy stuff at all. So that piece will now go turn back over, and we're just going to slot that into place, lining it up with the edges of my canvas. And as I say, I know that when you do things like this, you end up with a little bit of a wobbly thing if you're not careful. You could spritz your cardstock with some water. That will work perfectly well at keeping it smoother until it all dries out from that point of view. So there we are. So let's just pop that onto there, and then I have the circular C's. Cake. There are some cakes actually in my kitchen, Martin. It's very unusual for me to have cake in, but there are actually cakes in, because I had visitors at the weekend, and we bought them as a treat. I'm big enough. I don't really need extra calories, which is very unfortunate. So this piece is going to go into there, so that that's vaguely upright, and it will slot in. There we are. And that one can go into there, because I'm going to create my own porthole with some MDF, as I wanted dimension. So I didn't want to use the porthole that was on the original piece of paper, if that sort of madness makes sense. So the next move is going to be to add, if I can see what I've done with it, I can see what I've done with it, a little bit more interest to this background. So we'll get the stenciling bits out of the way early. This is my broken pot, and so this is the Gold Deluxe paste. We're going to be using 2 of the new colours tonight, not all of them, and it's thick, gritty, sort of semi-matte. It's not, doesn't dry, it is shiny, but it's not shiny. It's got an iridescent sparkle to it, so it does need a little bit of a shake before you stir before you're using it, and yeah, that's quite important. She says, can't you see what she's done with her palette knives that she had out, because I put half a dozen of them on the table. Can I see what I've done with them? Oh yes, I've tucked them over there out of harm's way. There we are. So I just want to add a little bit of extra detail into this. Most of my imagery is going to be focused around here and across here, but I do want to add another layer of detail to the base of this. So I'm just going to add some of this through the stencil. I don't want a complete coverage. It's not the look I'm going for, which is maybe just as well, but I just want to add a little bit of interest to my background, and it will shimmer through ultimately. I think this background's actually got an awful lot of detail on it before, as it is, without needing to have massive more added to it. But I do want to break up the brown just a little bit, and of course I can always add a bit more if I want to at any stage, because there are no rights and wrongs with this type of make, are there? So let's just pop a little bit into here. where some of these areas might just show through on the finished piece. So that's literally all I'm going to do to that background. Good evening, Blanche. So that can sit down there on ground floor level. And yeah, I'm going to lid that before we have a mess, because that's not cool. And I'll rewrap it. So, you know, if you do manage to break the lid, then just get some cling wrap and lid it as best you can. Because that's been like that now for 2 or 3 weeks, and if I didn't throw it and upend it, and it's still perfectly usable. And I just don't want to waste the paste. And things like that happen to all of us. Yeah, mine got bumped in transit, I'm sure it would have been thrown around. And it was a trial, a sample sent out from Pent Up. So when no one else had it, so I couldn't easily replace it. So there we are. So that can go there, that can go there. That's now a sticky mess. So let's pick that up. So I wanted to add some more detail into my porthole. And one of the joys of the glazes is that they will stay flexible, and therefore you can put them onto acetate. This is just a piece of acetate, and you can colour mix. So I'm just going to do a little bit of colour mixing. Let's just pop that out of the way. I'm going to use the space there. It's going to be easier, because again, I didn't want a complete, I wanted a brown, but there isn't really a brown in the there isn't a brown glaze. So if I just pop that onto there, so I'm just going to show you what I did, rather than it being too big an issue. I need a bit of tape. Let's grab a bit of tape. Yeah, there's the end. So that you can mix them, and they will work perfectly well on acetate pieces. So I'm just going to stick this down onto my onto the acetate. This is a demo piece, so it actually doesn't matter too much, but I don't really want it moving while I demonstrate what I'm going to do. So there we are. And I've pre-done these so that there are some that are dry, but I wanted to show that actually you don't have to use things as they come out of the pots. So the green is although it looks sort of turquoisey green here, it actually dries a proper green, as I showed last week. But as I said, I didn't particularly want a green. I wanted a brown. So if we go back to our colour wheels, if you combine all 3 colours of your colour wheel, so primary colours, so red or magenta, yellow and blue, then you will get a brown colour. So in the emerald is the blue and the yellow, and in the ruby must be some form of magenta. So I'm just going to pop some of that together, and you can custom mix what you want. And then similarly, if you want I'll show you that in a minute, because you can make a paler green just as easily. And I'm not putting these onto a black surface, so I'm deliberately wanting to get my colour correct. If I was going onto a black surface, then I could have used my iridescent paste, but that's not what I was wanting. And you get this sort of muddy mix, really. Doesn't really look brown, but it gives you a brown translucent finish once it's dry. So literally just mix the two together, and until you're happy with the colour, and then apply it through. And I think you can see there that I no longer have red, and I no longer have green either. I've got that mix. So all I did was cover it over. And if I wanted to, I can do the same with the green, and I'm going to colour mix this one on my surface. So that's just some of the green going through. You can see now what a difference mixing the red in with the red, because it's definitely no longer a Christmas red over there. But I didn't want this to be completely green, and that's so I'm taking some of the gold glaze paste at this point. I am going to make sure that's reasonably clean. And now I can mix it on here so I can get a greeny gold. And you can see again, I think that you end up with different colours by just being happy to, prepared to mix your pieces together. So that's again a really useful trick for most wet mediums. Good evening, Patricia. Thank you for joining us. I hope you are well. So that is literally just my acetate piece with these pastes put through, and I've got lots of colour variation in here, and it now needs to dry. So I'm just going to pop that out of the way. As I say, I did prepare some of that because I'm aware that it needs to dry, and I don't particularly want to force dry onto acetate because I just think that I might end up with a bit of a melted, mangled mess, and that's never a great thing to happen. Yummy, yummy, Sarah. Yeah, there we are. So let's just pop that over there, pop that over there, clear this up. There we are, and pop those out of harm's way. So that's most of those pastes dealt with. Let's just pick that up. Let's dry that down, and it's important that you do clean your stencils, because otherwise you'll have a bit of a headache, won't you, with what you're doing. So let me just pick this up. So I'm going to actually double layer my pieces. So this is the background, and this is going to go over the top of there. And that's not going to have any plastic, that is going to have some plastic showing through. So let me just give this a little bit of a trim up those sides, and then we can probably almost certainly pop that in to there. That will go over, and I've got no acetate showing. So it's always a bit difficult, isn't it, to adhere plasticky things to surfaces. So I'm just going to use some express glue for which will hold it reasonably effectively around the edge of there, and I'm going to be layering pieces on top and make sure I've got my letters round the right way, and I'm going to pop that piece into there, and that can now have a little bit of a dry whilst we carry on with the next bits of the project. So, okay, let's take that piece off there, that piece off there. So this is an MDF kit that I've put together, and this is another piece of acetate with a different icon on it, and these will lock together. And I clearly well, I don't want it to be just this brown colour. So I am going to use my black gold deluxe paste to cover this. And like the gold one, I'm going to give it a little bit of a stir to mix it up. This has a little bit of gold, well, quite a lot. You can see the shimmer as I move it. Gold shimmer in it. So let's just pick up one of these. There we are. That can go there. And all I'm going to do is actually just use this. The white pieces are resin pieces, and they will colour eventually. I might need to add some extra layers to them, but that's also fine. So let's just add some of this, dunk it in. Might need to get a paintbrush out to get some of this covered, looking at the way that that's not handling particularly nicely. So there we are. We'll just add some of this into here. Long term, this is an opening porthole, but I actually don't want it to open, so it's not. So I will be gluing it shut anyway, but it does give you lots of opportunity. But what I would say is, if you want it as an opening porthole, just be very careful how you paint the mechanism, because otherwise you will find that you can't open it. And when so that makes, I think that probably makes a degree of sense, doesn't it? Like that. So I can go through, and because this is a wooden porthole that I'm colouring, so make it a little look more aged. Actually, again, a little bit of brown showing through really isn't going to make matter hugely, but I'm hoping that the white pieces are resin, and they're completely unprimed pieces. And the deluxe paste will cover those without any need for priming or doing anything more to them, and it will stick and be solid. As I said the other week, you can use the deluxe paste directly onto glass and acrylic surfaces, and resin is an acrylic surface, so that sort of works, doesn't it, from that point of view. So we're just going to add our colour into here. There we are. I don't. So Alison's just asking, Jill, can I ask about Pentat's cracking base? I bought some, but didn't realise it had a number 2 on it. I got told I needed to get number 1 as well. I found it in my drawer, another cracking base that gets like a gel and almost transparent, but doesn't have a number on it. I think probably not, because the cracking pastes that are meant to go together all have 1 and 2 on them. If there's no, I'm wondering if you might have the 1 component one. Have a look on it, because they're all different and they all have slightly different end results. If necessary, PM me a picture of what you've got, and when I get a chance, I can then answer your question and be more helpful. I am aware that a certain chat TV channel had them on there without primers a while ago, and I did message, but it didn't seem to get rectified on air, so I apologize if that's what's happened. But if you're missing the primers, I suspect that you can pick them up separately in the UK, from at least one store will have them for you. So all I'm doing is giving myself a go, and it will be a little bit textured, and that's equally cool for the effect that I'm wanting to have. I'm more than happy for this to be a textured end result, because we can add lots of detail, lots of extra things. And I'm going to have a little bit of sparkle. It's very unusual for me to use sparkle, but actually sometimes it has its place, and this will just add an air of mystery to the whole, the fact that this is really a fantasy piece, rather than anything more than realistic. And I'm quite a literal person, so that's unusual for me, but there we are. So you can see that really hasn't taken me very long to cover. The remaining deluxe paste in the new release is a Bordeaux gold mix, and clearly that doesn't work with my sea theme. So whilst I've got about 35 tons of product out in front of me, I'm not going to be using that one. So that can go down out of harm's way, and I'm going to have a clean down as well, as that needs now to dry, and I want to get that out of the way. And this stuff, as I say, will stick to glass, so before it's completely dry, it's very much worth clearing it off your glass cutting mate, or having a silicone mat underneath, because it will peel it off a silicone mat, whereas coming off the glass requires a hammer and chisel. No prizes to how I know that one, I think. There we are. So that can go down again out of harm's way for the time being. That's my second piece of acetate. So I've got lots of pieces here. There we are. I've clearly got glue on that. So let me retrieve the bits that need to be painted to show you. That's covered, that's covered, that's covered, they're covered, they're covered, they're covered. Right, excellent. See, 3005 pieces quite happily to the fore. Right. Okay, so some of my pieces I have deliberately chosen to work with a very dark background, and those pieces, so the bottles, the lamp and the icon, which is Dreams of the Ocean, were all primed with the Pentart black primer paste stroke gesso. Okay, but I didn't want everything to have a black background for the so this piece, which is a coggy piece, I have painted with Pentart acrylic paint matte in earthy brown, which is one of the rust paint colours. So but yeah, a nice dark brown. I've deliberately gone for a black surface, and that's fine, because I'm using the dark brown. If I'm wanting to add paler colours, then I would not have used the black primer. That's why I've got some of it paint primed with the white primer paste. So that can now sit over there to dry whilst we tackle this little lot. Now then, this mould is lovely. It has lots of it has some single molds on it, and it has this piece, but careful pouring means that you can pour this one, and that one separately, or you could cut it when it's soft and use clay and do a 2, a 4, or a 3 quite comfortably. So it's a really useful mold. So just because a mold has what it has on it, it doesn't mean that that's what you have to do with it. So let's use some of these pieces, which are the iridescent glazes, and if I turn them up, they really all look exactly the same in the bottles, but when they dry, the one that's the least the same is actually the iridescent olive gold, and you can see a gold glimmer in that face to face, but the others are much harder, but they do not dry those colors. And so what we're going to do is just paint some of these pieces with some of these colors. So let's just take, so this one is the blue, and just because it's a glaze paste, and last week I used the other day I used them all very much through stencils dimensionally. That's not what you have to do. I'm just going to pop this onto some of these pieces, and I'm going to use a mix of all of them. Now you'll get different depths of colour depending on how thick they are. So you don't need to have, I don't want great big blocks, but I do need a covering, and in some of the recesses it can be deeper than others. So I'm just going to mix this up a bit because I don't want all my bottles looking exactly the same, and we're going to add extra layers. Good evening, Sabine. I trust you are well. I trust you are well and all is good in your world. There we are. So we'll need to be a little bit more careful here. So let's just pop that. And again, it doesn't really matter if you do merge them, I think. You know, you'll just get a different effect. So let's just pop that one into there. Let's say we're going to mix our products up. So it doesn't matter. And these will change their colours as we go. I know they say I've got some that are dried anyway. So there we are. So that is the blue iridescent glaze. And so we don't contaminate everything. What have I done with my... I've got that there. So we'll just pick that up. Actually, while the going is good. We'll not put that on anything because we're not sure what it's come from. So this is the green iridescent glaze. As I say, we're just going to pop this onto some of these, mix them up. I deliberately don't want them all the same colour, and I just thought this project would be an ideal way of showing lots of different ways of using the mediums, and also allowing you to have the different effects. So let's just pop that green onto there. Is that the green? Oh, that's the whichever one. Yes, it's the green. There we are. So green next to that will look cool, and we'll just then have to dry them. There we are. From that point of view, let's lid that. Make sure we get the correct lids on the crate things, otherwise we'll be in huge trouble. It's always not good. There we are. Let's wipe that off there. So we've done the blue, we've done the green, so we have purple. So why not? I might have mixed some colours up on that one, but hey ho. They just work really nicely together, so it's not too big an issue. Let's just pop that onto there. We're going to have a purple one there. There we go. We'll have a purple one into there. And as you can see, it's not taking me a silly amount of time to paint this little lot, but I just didn't want... I've got quite a lot of other bits to paint, so that's why I've done quite a lot of prep up front. And this is the olive gold. So it is sort of almost a greeny gold, but very definitely different to the shimmer paste. So there we are. And let's just pop that up onto here. And they can quite happily sit now, tucked off to the side. Pop that there. There we are. That can go there, that can go there. That one can go there. So let's just shuffle this lot off to the side, out of harm's way. Stick that in there, wipe our hands down. So we have some shells and our mermaid. So this might be a little bit more, take a little bit more time to do. So for the shells, I have taken, this is Pentart Decor Soft in cream white, so it's not white, not a true white at all. It definitely has a cream undertone, and we're just going to pop that onto there. These have been primed with white gesso. We'll do the same for this, and we're going to convert them into something a little bit more fancy ultimately, but we're going to need some of this lot to dry. So there we are. So that's going to go into there, that's going to go into there. So, and then we have to have a think about what we're going to do with our mermaid. So that will take me a little bit more time to paint, I'm afraid. So I have pre-done her body with compact powder, which is a flesh coloured paint, and left that to dry because again it's going to make my life easier. There we are, and this is the earthy brown, but we're going to give her some extra colourings ultimately, and I think I'm going to go for nice dark brown hair, but it's going to become golden locks ultimately. So let's just give this, otherwise I shall have a pickle. There we are. Speed painting is never good, so we'll just take it down a notch, and we'll not. And I can always go back in and add some of the compact powder if I want to, but the intention was to try and make it not so difficult tonight by doing some of the more fiddly bits ahead of time. Yeah. So I hope everyone else is well. I'm sorry for radio silence when I'm painting, because sometimes it just needs a little bit of concentration skills and to do things. There we are. We do have a shell there, but actually I'm not going to worry about painting that a different colour. It's strategically placed, ladies. There we are. So let's just pop that onto there. And I've missed a hand, so we might just rectify that in a minute. So that will do for that for the moment. Let's pick up the compact powder. Hi, Crafty Jacks. There we are. Put a little bit of that there. I'll need to clean that thoroughly. Otherwise we'll have muddy mess. Hi, Vivian. Thank you for joining us this evening. There we are. How did I miss the hand on a hip? You know, because I'm a Wallybot, really, honestly. There we are. I will leave that shell and that swirl neutral. And then I ummed and ahed about what to do about the tail. And in the end, I decided that I would go with this turquoise colour. We're going to add in some of the extra colours anyway, overall, so it won't matter. And it's not going to stay quite that vibrant because of the next steps I've planned once it's dry. But I thought if I hadn't done some of this prep beforehand, then you might be here until silly o'clock. Yeah, there's definitely a judgment call when it comes to lives. You can either be on air for several hours and do every last bit live with people falling asleep, or you can talk your way through some of the bits and then just add, rather than doing every single bit of painting and drying, because that's the problem with painting, isn't it? Is that we've then got to let this lot dry before I can, I can add my next layers to it. And I do want to add some more layers to this. I don't want them to stay as a single flat colour. Much as this turquoise is rather pretty, it's not. It's not particularly the best colour for the whole project, but as I say, it can be muted down just as really easily with some of the other products that are in the system. So let me just come into there. Swirl. There we are. And then we might have to get our dryer out in a minute and give some of this a little bit of a whiz dry, because they do need to be dry for the next steps. There we are. Have I got most of it? I think so. So there we are. So we have our pieces to that stage. So now let's just grab, that can go out of the way. Let's just give, well, maybe I shouldn't have done, because I've now put blue on the body. So of my very lovely, let's just pop that there, that there, that there. I don't want a blue body, so let me just clear that mess that I've added to that. Let's dry it first, and then we can add it over the top. If it gets that completely dry, then I think I'll be able to shade that through quite happily. Here we are. That there. Right, let's just take a little bit of that, cover over that blue, cover over those bits that are down there. So we say, here we are. That will work. That will work for me temporarily. It might not work long term. We might end up having to cover that again, but we'll do it when it's all dry. So let's just get this lot dry, because actually that's what I need now, before I can do the next steps with the next product. Yeah. Good evening, Caroline. Thank you for joining us, my darling. It's much appreciated. Much appreciated. There's only so much you can do ahead of time. What am I making, Carol? I'm making a mixed media picture using Songs of the Sea, lots of moulds, a little bit of paper, and then lots of the new products that Pentart released last about 10 days ago. So let's just dry some of these off. Pop that over there, because I can't add my next layer until I have. That's why I've got about 55,000 bits in front of me, Caroline. I'm afraid I've got lots and lots of different mediums and things, because there were 22 new products in the release, in the launch, and they are beautiful. Really good for Christmas projects. Beautiful glittery golds and silvers, greens and reds, and the glitter does not come off. So if you're a glitter phobic, no, not 55,000. There were 22 new products in the new release. Well, it's a lot of products in one release. It has to be said. It is a huge number of products in one release to come out. But again, I think it's important that we understand that we can layer all of these products, and that they work together. So hence the things. So if I lift that up, if I move it about, you can catch that I've got blue violet, green and gold. They are just stunning in real life. Trying to catch them on, yeah, there we are. Trying to catch them on camera is really difficult. And you can use them plain on onto white, and you'll get a shimmer, but the colour intensity really comes through when you use them on the black. Oh, there we are. Let's just give these. I've still got some extra layers. I need to get these dry. So the shells are dry, so that's always cool. So to add some colour to, yes, I think they would work on glass, Alison. I've not tried them. The deluxe paste absolutely do. They will peel out of a silicone mould, but I'm not. So I'm not sure about their longevity on glass. I think if you've primed the glass with bonding primer, then you can treat them like you would any other medium. But I'm not sure about whether you can put them straight onto glass. I've not had issues with mop up from doing that, so which is what makes me think that perhaps they're not, that you'll need to put a primer down first. But once you put primer down, absolutely no problems whatsoever. So this is the rose gold glaze. You will be delighted to know, ladies, I have not used every single product that was in the new release. Lots of them, but not all of them. So that's how I made those. So that can go into there. And those still need a little bit more of dry before I can tackle these. Yeah, you shouldn't have a problem if you use the bonding primer, because it seals pretty much, and pretty much anything will work once you've done that. If I'm working on resin pieces here with primer paste. I think it will be fine without. Martin, have a safe trip to the hospital. I hope you find Mum in good spirits, my darling, and that she's not too upset, and that they're looking after her well. Because there's nothing more worrying, isn't it, than having a parent in hospital. I know the feeling very, very well. Right. Okay. So, what else have we got? We have, this is the shimmer glaze. Now this has a waxy component in it, and so if you paint this onto surfaces, then you won't need to add varnish to seal it, because it inherently has that component within it. There we are. So let's just add this. So this is the gold shimmer paste. It's probably my favourite of all of them. But then for the makes I'm making, the gold has worked really, really well. I have got the silver out, and I'm going to use the silver rather than the pearl on the mermaid, although I do think actually you could. So the shimmer paste come in big pots from Pentart. They're 150 mils, and they are designed almost in the same way to their antiquing gels. So pop it on, cover everything, and then wipe back. It will require a clean baby wipe to wipe it back. And then you can wipe back as much or as little as you want. So let me just wipe some of that off the surface to bring out the detail, and then I can set that there to dry. There we are. Okay. I'm going to pop that out of the way. So for this part of my mermaid, I'm going to go with the gold. Now it will spread and it's very difficult to get every last bit off. So if you're doing areas that you want to be selective, then be very cautious with how you wipe. It will just add a little bit. And I'm thinking that I want the hair to have a golden hue. So let me just add that to it, rather than it just being straight brown. There we are. So there we are, that's what we're going to do. Because I think the cold brown is quite stark, whereas by the time you've added some of the shimmer glaze to it, you've got golden brown locks, which I think looks rather pretty. Yeah. Let's grab that bit that I've missed a little bit, and I don't like having patchy pieces. I'd rather just add and correct the bits as you go, because that's what you do in real life, isn't it? You would add your extra details as you went. Okay, so she's now got that. I could add some lips, but I'm not going to at the moment. Let's just pop that onto there. Now, I don't particularly want a golden appearance, so I could choose to use the pearl white shimmer glaze, or I could use silver, or I could be a devil and mix the two up together. Possibly, maybe not. I'm going to keep things simple. Pop that off to the side. Pick up patchy pieces. Yeah, it's where I've missed bits in the painting, and that's what happens, isn't it? You just have to be prepared to go back. So this is the silver shimmer glaze. As I say, I just felt that yeah, I wanted to soften this blue and add a watery shine to the piece, and that's what this is going to allow me to do. I took it all into all of the gaps. There we are. Make sure I've got all of the pieces area covered. That can go in there. And I hope what I'm doing is showing that actually all of these products work with each other. And there was a good reason why so many of them were released all at the same time. So I can now wipe this back a little bit, but I've got a watery shine to it, and my piece is sealed in the process. So we still need a little bit of dry for some of these pieces. But again, it's not taking me, it's not taking any of these huge amounts of time. The shimmer is beautiful, Alison, and the whole of this this launch is around shimmer, iridescent sparkle, and it just is lovely. And as I say, I'm not globally a shimmery, shiny person. It doesn't generally float my boat, but if I lift that up, look at that hair. Yeah, it's definitely now golden brown. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to leave those because I haven't painted them, and I think we might be here for, and I've now lost a piece as well. So there we are. We'll worry about that. We can do those at the end, depending on the time, or I'll tell you what I'm going to do with them. What am I looking for? I know what I'm looking for. So I have, in the new release, there are 2 colours of metal pigment. There is a rose gold and champagne. So let's just move some of these out of the way. So this is the champagne metal pigment, and I really am not going to need very much of that. There we are, that can go there. And I'm mixing this with the Pigment Fix. Now this will make a liquid metal that is permanent once dry, and does not tarnish. So if you use lots of real metal pigments that without a special fixatives or without varnishing it, then they will tarnish with time. And the joy of these is that they will not, it doesn't tarnish. So all I'm going to do is mix up my metal pigment with some of the Pigment Fix. The only headache is you can't reconstitute it. Okay, so mix up small quantities or leave it till you've got a lot. And I've got a relatively dry brush here, and these are reasonably dry, so I'm just going to add a little bit over these to highlight some of the details. I don't want to cover all of my base colours, but I just want to add a little bit of extra detail into them. So this was blue, and it is now, you can see it as I move it, it is blue. And if I come over the top, I can pick up all the detail on the surface quite nicely. The bit that's still white will dry clear, so it's not a problem. Yeah, and you can see how little you need, and I have way too much mixed up here, and that's fine. There's masses in the pots. You do want a dry brush though. You don't want to be swamping your pieces, or you'll just end up painting everything. So let's just add some of that over there just to break this in a little bit, and it's just adding another care. And I'm using the metal pigments almost as I would white gesso for dry, white for dry brushing, but I didn't want to add white in. I've gone for a very metallic project tonight. So let's see. So goody gumdrops. Let's pop that out of harm's way, and then let's start making things up. So let's just pop these lot out of the way. That 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 lot out of the way. I know what we'll do. I know what we'll do with the extra we've got in here, because we've got all of this detail on here, haven't we, that we can add into. So let's just take a little bit of this. It's not quite dry, but hey ho. And just add a little bit, gentle brushing. It's picking up some of the texture that I added by tamping down the deluxe paste. Just adding just another layer of colour, and it will help bring all of the different pieces together by doing this. There we are. Okay, cool. So I have another piece of stencil acetate, and there's my express glue, and that's going to be slightly difficult to get in because I've clogged stuff up, but that's okay. We can work with that. Doesn't matter. There we are. Sorry, it's a awkward place to be, and that is going to sit into there. I need to trim a little bit off there. Okay, let's just give that a little squash down, make sure it's catching where I need it to catch. Okay. So here is the background that we created right at the beginning of our piece, and that is going to go over there. So I've got my acetate layered, and I can see through. That's layer 1 on my acetate, so I can see through to my paper underneath, and then I can pop this over the top like that. So let us take some of this. Hello Gracie from Washington, I'm glad to see you. It's nice to see someone different and not from the UK. I think it might be round lunchtime for you, maybe, possibly. There we are. So that will go there. Now, very, very conveniently, this Mad Hatter's porthole. See a bit. Yeah, there we are. Fits directly over that circle from the piece. So that's quite cool, isn't it? And I'm going to pop my mermaid onto there. Let me move you back into screen. Now I'm putting my mermaid onto a difficult surface, and it is textured, and so I am going to use some gel medium, so some of the matte medium for applying this with, because it's going to work better. But I think she looks really quite cool sitting on there. So there we are. And I've got, and I know that I haven't cast her particularly well because I was being economical with my resin. So she's a bit concave, and that's also fine. So let's just pop her. She's going to sit on, some of that tail will sit on. So there we are. And some of it won't. Some of this piece will though. So let's just pop that onto there. So the mermaid is going to sit just there. Okay. So let us now clear some mess out of the way, move that better into shot for you. Okay. And of course, I've had a trial run of these, so that makes life easier, yeah, from that point of view. So that is going to go there. And the gel medium, of course, the beauty of the gel medium is that it allows me some wriggle room as to what I'm doing. So I know I want to pop those onto there, but I need them propped forward a little bit. So let me take, that one is purple, so there we are. Let's tuck that underneath there, she says, and we're going to pop, that one under there. Okay, so that's just allows me to provide a little bit of support for those pieces, because otherwise they're a bit floaty. So that can go there. Let's clear some of that off, the excess off. That can go there, and I can lift that up. And I've got gaps underneath that I don't want. So let me just clear that under there. And I've clearly got a gap underneath there. So rather than leaving everything completely floating, I'm just going to fill that. Really like the round porthole thingy. The round porthole thingy is from Mad Hatters, my darling. It is not part of the Slamtheria collection. So let's just pop and see whether that's going to, yeah, that's going to be reasonably well hidden if I do that. So I think it's important that we have versatility in our stash, and that we don't just, and that we can mix our products from different companies and make them work for us. Because if we can do that, then we can learn to be relatively economical with what we're doing. And I knew I needed a statementy piece. There we are. And that was what was going to, and that was going to provide that statement image for me. And I've got a bit of acetate there, so we'll be doing a little bit of covering up that bit at some point with something. So that can sit there, that can sit there, and that means that I can now add watch of that to there, and I can pop that into there. So that's covering that, and I can see the piece of acetate there, and I can't do much about it, so I will disguise that at some stage. So I have that to go into there, and I've got a gap here, and this will float if I'm not very careful. So let us start to add some bits and pieces. So I think I might tuck that to cover my piece of acetate that's going to irritate me if I don't. So there we are. And because, there we are. So I've got a little bit of a shell poking its way through, out of the way, and I can then clear the extra gel medium out of harm's way. There we are. I've got lots of shells that I can add. I've got a floating gap here, so we're just going to fill that floating gap with some pieces of chipboard, grey board. These are just offcuts. They're there, so I might as well, use them for gap filling. But it will also help to have my piece stable. And I haven't got space to put that, so I'm going to adjust what I'm doing. I might not use that piece, but the rest of the shells, as I say, have been made in exactly the same way. So it really doesn't matter. Sorry if that's made you go seasick, ladies. I do apologise. So we have the lamp to go into there. I think we might have that piece to sit in there. I like that. So let's just take that pop that into there. So it's going to rest on and off. There we are. It's going to need some support underneath there, because otherwise I'm going to use about 25 tons of gel medium to fill the gap, and that's never, ow, she says, trying to chop a finger off. Also not a good move on a live. Let's just fill some of this. There we are. Bits of this. If you're popping this into a frame, it won't matter, and it won't show long term, these pieces, because people won't be able to see what's going tucked underneath. There we are. So that piece is going to tuck into there. So we've now got a nice ensemble of pieces all together. There we are. Let's just clear that gubbins from underneath there. And so for this side, I needed something that was going to balance that, but I didn't want to just use the whole piece, and that's why I started to chop things up and why I cast lots of these other pieces. So let's just pull some of these bits and pieces over so we can see what we have. There we are. And in fact, that might sit nicely into there, mightn't it? There we are. I like that in there. So let's just give that a good blob of, make sure I've hitting all of the surfaces. And the gel medium allows me that flexibility to do that. So the shell can go into there. And we'll see how I feel about this one in a minute. I think I have a feeling it might be just too big for what I want. Partly because the gap is quite small, so I'll pop that one onto there. So now I have these pieces that I'm going to add in to here. Let's cut those off there. So I've got, there we are. So this, because I can cast these as separate pieces, it's allowing me to build up my pattern. So I know that this is going to look like it's floating at the moment, but it won't do by the time I've added the extra pieces into here. So that's going to go up there. Let me just wipe that gel medium off there before it irritates me. So that can sit there, and then I think we might pop that up onto there. I cover all of those surfaces we should grab. There we are. So that can go up there. So now I've got bits that I need to lift and cover and move about a bit. So let's just have a little bit of a play. So he'll sit onto there, but again he's going to need a little bit of extra support because otherwise he'll sag or not grab. There we are. And of course we know that we need 3 pieces. That's always clever, isn't it, when you want multiple pieces. 1. Believe me, it's absolutely worth doing this. Okay, totally worth doing this, because otherwise your pieces just end up not secure enough. And I might actually only need 2 pieces here, looking at that. So just work out what you need to do the job that you're asking it to do. So that's going to sit onto there. Yeah. So the bottles are no longer separate. And we've got a shell that we can pop into there. And that will help bridge that gap. So that's going to tuck into there. And we're going to pop that one into there. And that's going to have enough grab there. And that one can go into there. So that can go there. And we might pop that onto there. So we might need a big blob here, partly because I'm deliberately, and I'm happy for it to be a little bit on the wonk. And that one can go into there. So that can go there. I think you can understand why I did quite a lot of prep ahead of here. So we've now got some bits to add into here. So one of the molds, the shell mold, has masses and masses of little tiny cogs that we can then add in and scatter. And just build up, add that texture and detail. You can see how tiny some of them are, and they can come off so that it looks like they're all an integral part of the process. So I'm carrying on building up the depth. And then there's a mold that has all of these tiny, tiny shells. So we're going to fill some of the gaps are just going to be filled with some of these tiny shells. That can go onto there. And you think, was it worth putting them in the mold? And they are just so useful, it has to be said. They just fill in lots of little spaces, and they help to bridge the layers and the gaps, and they just work, even if they are a little bit fiddly for painting. Shovel that into there. I haven't got a fish. I haven't got a fish to go on. But we could put a fish on. I could possibly find a fish for off the live and add it in. That is for certain. There we are. We'll add that into there. So I'm moving these about little bits. That can go there. Okay. Now I can see an area on here that I need to add a little bit to, where I haven't gilded that the shell that's part of it. So I'm just going to now gild that swirl and that shell on there, because I think it's going to look so much nicer when it's not in stark white. This is, as I say, just the champagne, and it will stick onto there quite nicely. There we are. Okay. That's too big. Now my idea is to seal this, is to pop these pieces on and then pop some extra bits of resin back. So that means I need to paint these with some more of that deluxe paste. If I could see what I'd done with my black deluxe paste, which in amongst my avalanche products I have on here is more easily said than done. There we are. There we are. So and then we'll deliberately seal this, but I couldn't do this until I'd got the rest of it put together. Yeah, no, it's a shell, not a fish. And Antonis does have there we are. Does have that's a bit wobbly. Some shells in his Mechanical SeaWorld collection. That's a bit soft at the moment, so let me just pop that onto there. That can sit. Might trim that at some point. Let's trim it now. It's designed so that you can actually open your piece, but I deliberately don't want it to open. So let me just fill that. That can sit onto there. I could always add some resin cogs to it if I want to. Let's cover that. But as I'm not going to open this, and I don't need it to be a shaker element at all, I'm going to just squash that, and then that can sit onto there. Comes up. There we are. Now I know I had two more. Oh, there's another fish. Another shell. Why not? Why not add that whilst the going is good? There we are. So that can go into there. So, ladies, I might well add an extra cog onto here at some point. To finish that off, but for now, that will do. I did have two of these. They've got little people on them, but I can't find the other one. So we'll leave it at that for this evening. I think that's quite long enough for a live. We'll pop those into there. I'm going to wish everyone a very good night. Let's clear that out the way. So I hope I've shown you that the new products are versatile, that they work together. You can never have too many cogs. No, Caroline, you absolutely can't. So I will, I've got more. And if I lift that up then and move it a bit, then you will see that there's lots and lots and lots of sparkle and lots of colour on here. So there is a mixed media make with all of the novelties, or lots of the novelties, and but done in a completely non-Christmas way. So I hope that's been lovely. Take care, ladies. Have a good evening and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.